Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the historical sources to look at a moment that literally redrew the map of the world. We're talking about the 1947 partition, the exact moment the British Empire's largest colony was carved into two completely distinct independent nations, India and Pakistan. It's an incredible story full of political maneuvering, immense hope, and, frankly, tragic upheaval.
To really wrap our heads around the sheer magnitude of this event, we have to start right here. 400 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That represents the hundreds of millions of lives that were permanently reshaped by a single line drawn on a map. This wasn't just a distant political shift. This was an event that flipped the daily lives of nearly 500 million people completely upside down, practically overnight.
Section 1. The Road to Partition Demands for a Homeland. So the build-up to 1947 didn't just happen out of nowhere. It was decades in the making. By the mid-1940s, the push to kick out British rule had become absolutely unstoppable. But here's the thing. The big question wasn't just about independence anymore. Tensions had been boiling for years between India's Hindu majority and its huge Muslim population. The All India Muslim League, which was led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, started arguing forcefully that Muslims needed their own separate homeland, a place where they wouldn't just be a permanent minority. This demand was actually formalized back in 1940 with the Lahore Resolution, and it caught like wildfire. By 1947, a totally war-exhausted Britain finally threw in the towel and agreed to leave. The crucial takeaway here is that this vision completely changed the political conversation. It went from, is Britain leaving, to, okay, exactly how are we dividing up the house? The concept of Pakistan, which translates to land of the pure, started taking on a very real geographical shape. They were demanding sovereignty specifically in the northwestern and eastern regions of British India. Section 2. Drawing the Radcliffe Line, a bureaucratic scramble. 5 weeks. Seriously, think about that for a second. The completely monumental task of drawing borders through Punjab and Bengal, regions where Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs had literally lived side by side for centuries, was slapped with a frantic 5-week deadline. They had a little over a month to divide a massive subcontinent, parsing out communities, resources, and geography. And the sheer irony here, it's just staggering. The guy wielding the pencil was a British lawyer named Cyril Radcliffe. And get this, he had never, not once, set foot in India before this. He had zero firsthand knowledge of the land or the cultures he was dividing. So his line didn't carefully navigate natural boundaries like rivers or mountains. Instead, it cut blindly through farmlands, split right down the middle of villages, and severed families. Because of this incredibly hurried, disconnected process, when August 15th finally rolled around, total confusion reigned. Imagine waking up on the day of independence and having absolutely no idea which new nation your own home belonged to. The boundary awards weren't immediately published, so many communities literally didn't know which side of the border they were sitting on until days after independence was officially declared. Section 3. A massive human exodus. The fallout of the line. 14 to 18 million. That is the estimated number of people who were forced to cross these newly established borders. To put that into perspective, that's like the entire population of a massive modern metropolis being forced to pack up and hit the road all at once. What followed that pencil line was a human exodus on a scale the world had rarely ever seen, sparking one of the absolute largest and fastest mass migrations in human history. What unfolded on the ground was this staggering dual movement, just endless columns of people traveling in opposite directions. You had millions of Muslims moving toward the brand new borders of Pakistan, while at the exact same time, millions of Hindus and Sikhs were moving toward the newly established borders of India. And they traveled however they could, by foot, by bullock cart, packed onto trains. Entire columns of people stretched out for miles, carrying whatever pieces of their lives they could physically carry. Tragically, though, this shared human exodus wasn't just a peaceful transition. It was accompanied by absolutely horrific violence. The historical records show a death toll that is just hard to comprehend, ranging from several 100,000 to over 1 million people. Villages were burned to the ground, trains rolled into stations carrying only bodies, and women were abducted on both sides of the new border. All of this left newly established refugee camps in cities like Lahore, Delhi, Karachi, and Calcutta completely overwhelmed by traumatized arrivals who had lost absolutely everything in a matter of days. Section 4. Birth of a Nation, Hope and Grief. So, right in the middle of all this overwhelming chaos and displacement, this bureaucratic line officially birthed a new sovereign state.
On the night of August 14, 1947, Pakistan officially came into being. This culminated in Karachi with immense celebrations. A new flag was hoisted high, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah was sworn in as the nation's very first governor-general, stepping up to address the new Constituent Assembly. In that pivotal first address, Jinnah laid out the binding promise for the new nation. He envisioned a state where citizens, regardless of their religion, would be completely equal before the law. Honestly, it was an incredibly powerful declaration of intent, especially for a nation founded right in the middle of such intense religious and communal division. But as we dig into the historical record, it's clear the birth of this nation had a deeply dual nature. On the one hand, you had this profound hope and the massive celebration of millions finally getting their independent homeland after decades of struggle. But on the flip side, there was fresh, agonizing grief. Millions were forced to somehow balance the joy of independence with the devastating trauma of displacement, having just buried family members or fled the only ancestral homes their families had ever known.
Section 5. An enduring legacy, 8 decades later.
Nearly 80 years later, that hurried pencil line drawn by a total stranger, it manifests today as one of the world's most heavily militarized boundaries. For the survivors still with us, those memories of walking miles on foot and the loved ones they left behind remain incredibly vivid. And for the generations that followed, this shared history firmly defines their modern identity, their nationhood, and the incredibly complex relationship between two countries that share both a border and a birthday.
For the descendants today, 1947 is history, sure, but it's a living, deeply poignant history. It's a story of immense, almost unimaginable sacrifice that permanently altered the demographic and political course of the entire world. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. How can a hurried bureaucratic decision, literally a line drawn on a map by an outsider in merely 5 weeks, continue to so powerfully dictate the identities, the politics, and the destinies of hundreds of millions of people almost a century later? It's a profound question about the lasting weight of history. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep exploring.